Hello everybody to Grainificent. In today's video, I will be talking about how to use the Mamiya 645 film camera. So, let's get to the table to show it up close. So, first things first, for this film camera, you need a tiny battery just like this one. The model of this battery will be noted in the description, so you know exactly what the model of this battery is. And the way where you insert this battery, it's a simple process. You turn the camera upside down, and you got battery door right over here. And to open the battery door right beside it, there's an arrow here, which way to turn it. If you don't have that arrow because it's already scratched off or something, you just turn this wheel, put your finger on it and turn it, press on it and turn it clockwise. And this door should open up just like that. And inside there you have as well 6 volts, battery, silver oxide, best, but they sell these Duracell good batteries. This one I think it's already in there for a year or something like that. They last quite a long time. And the way you put it in, of course, you got minus there, plus there. If you don't got that piece of paper, like I'm saying, minus towards the door, plus towards this button over here. And you put it in just like this, and you close the door. Just like that. And now when you got the battery in, or if you already have a battery in there and you don't know if it's good, how you check your battery level is with this red button over here. When you press it, this light over here showing up shows you that the battery level is good. Let's start from this side. We got the different flash sync ports, and here we got the different times. You can set any time you want, and this red button is, we will talk about that later. When you open the top over here, you have the viewing screen, and this button over here, press on this silver button. Just like that, it opens up the magnifying glass so you can focus much more easily. And of course the focus is on the lens. And you fold it back down, and to close this you just press on both sides like this on the center here and fold it down just like this. And of course there's another way to take photos with this camera that I discovered not too long ago, because I always wondered, what is this for? Is it a handle to hold the camera by? I wouldn't ever hold it by this because this whole top can come off, so I don't advise that. But when you put this up, this rear part over here folds out, and this inner part comes out like that. And now you got a viewfinder like this. When you look through this and you align this frame with this frame, then anything inside here should be what the lens takes. Now this gives you a viewing area of approximately an 80mm lens on here. This lens is 45mm. I also got the 80mm lens for this camera, but the view here gives you an 80mm viewing angle, somewhere approximately. So to fold this back, this folds like that, this closes, and this closes just like that. So the next thing we do to check if it works completely and how to use it. So this is the crank here. When you crank it, it locks into place when it advances to the next frame. And you release the shutter with either this button or this button right here. And when you advance to the next frame, as you can notice, the shutter curtains go up. It's a little harder to crank at the beginning. But when the shutter curtain is all the way up, then it's a very lightly advance because it advances the rest of the film into the next spot, and then it locks. So you got a resistance and then easier for the remaining way. And it locks and you can take a photo. And with this little fold out knob, you can advance your frames. So in the back here, if it doesn't advance your frames when you're looking at the camera in store somewhere and it isn't advancing, and you know the battery is in properly, you should check if it has the tray in the back, because without this tray it will not advance. See, we leave the tray out, we close the doors, it will pull the shutter up, but as you see, it's not advancing, it's not leaving the start. If you don't got the tray, it will not advance. So on the tray, of course, you should make sure it's a 120 format tray. I think there still was 220 format trays. They should take 120 film as well. Just I think they had a different lock on them that allowed you to take more than 15 frames because this camera only takes 15 frames on 120 film in the 645 format. If your tray does not have a spool, an empty spool, that's not that big of a deal because they're cheap things. They're just plastic spools. You will have a lot of these left over from 120 film, but you always need one to put the film on. More on this you will see in the video about loading film. And of course, you should check inside for your curtain. If it's not advancing, if it's not taking the curtain up while you spin this wheel, most likely the curtain is already advanced to the top position. So what you have to do, put in the back, close it, advance it all the way to the first frame, and when the advance knob locks, release the shutter. Now stop, open up the back again, take out this, and now when you're looking at the shutter curtain, you're looking at the top part of the shutter curtain. Now when you advance it slowly, you see the shutter curtain is going up. Just look at it, see if there isn't any holes in it. And there we go, we got the shutter curtain all the way up. That's how you inspect it if everything works. You have these wheels up here. From the bottom one is from the advanced lever. The top one is for this counter, so the camera knows you are advancing. And of course they work on these wheels here. So always make sure they're on. If you don't have any problems at this point with this, just put the back in, close the back door. And now when we advance again to the next frame, to the first frame, and it locks, this button over here allows you to take multiple exposures on one frame. Because if you take a photo and you want to get the shutter up, you will advance to the next frame. If you want to load the shutter and not advance to the next frame because you want to do multiple exposures, this button, you just turn to multi, and at this point, you can just advance your shutter and you see it locks right away. And you can take multiple exposures on one frame without advancing the frames. So also, if your camera is staying on one frame taking photos and doesn't want to advance further, check this button over here. It should be pointing up. The lever itself is kind of pointy, so if you don't have any markings left on this, make the pointing side point up. At that time, you can advance. Just after you point it up, you have to release the shutter to advance. And as you see, now it advances to the next frame. And this over here is the mirror up lever. What this does is if you want to take a longer exposure and you don't want the mirror to jump up and shake the camera, you can put it up manually and then release the shutter without using the mirror because the mirror is already up at this point. Just like that. And you can drop the mirror back down just like that. To take off the lens, you have the button right over here. You press in the button and you turn the lens counterclockwise and you take it out just like that. And here you see the mirror, and when you move the mirror up lever, you see the mirror folds up just like that. It folds up and you can inspect inside here from this side, and you can fold it back down, and you can advance the shutter and take a photo to see if everything works here. You can as well put the mirror up, advance the curtains and the shutter and the frame, and see that everything works properly from here. And on the lens part, of course, here's the little lever that closes the aperture blades while taking the photo. So if everything works fluidly, everything is good, you can look through it And when you turn the aperture, this button, when it's on A, that means the camera closes the aperture when taking a photo using this lever over here. So when you close down to, like, let's say 22, as you see, the aperture will close only when this lever is moved. When you turn it to manual, that means it will always be the aperture you set it to. So you should always check if these two modes work on the camera. Back to A, it will not react. It will decide by this lever. So to put the lens back on, you get this red dot, and you got a red dot over here. You align them, and you turn it clockwise, just like that. And it's locked into place. The way to take this top part off is you got this button over here. You press it in and turn it clockwise and lift it up, just like that. And as you see here, you got this waist level viewfinder taken off. And here underneath, you got the battery contacts. And you can clean your window here. Unscrewing these screws, you can always replace this window. Just always be careful, we won't be unscrewing them now. And of course, to put on the prism, you need to obviously have the prism, right? So this is how the light meter prism looks like. It as well has the Mamiya name on, because when you take off the waist level, you take off the Mamiya 645 sign. The light meter prism only has the Mamiya, and you take it off from this, and here you got your contacts, you got your prism. The light comes in through this. It measures the amount of light that it's gathering, and of course this lever tells the prism what f-stop you are using. So you have to make sure that this lever goes in over here on the lens, on the f-stop. You see here moving around. These two things need to connect together. So as you see, it fell in there, so you can move it now, just like that. And you just push it down, and it locks into place just like that. And over here, you move this to the red dot over here, and this button of course tells you the battery power, and this button over here activates the light meter. There we go, you see something? It will go up and down depending on the time you set and the aperture set, and when the exposure is correct, you will have a green light. So you see when it's underexposed, it will go down, telling you that you need to raise the exposure. At proper exposure, it's green. And when you're overexposed, it moves up, that you're overexposed. And you always click this white button to light this light back on. There we go. So that's how this works. And of course on the top here, you have to set your ISO. So the prism knows what kind of ISO film you have in here, so it knows how to measure it. And it goes all the way from 25 ISO all the way up to 6400 ISO. And again with this, the same way you take it off as you put it on. You have the same knob over here. You press it in, turn it clockwise. There we go. And you take it off. And of course with this knob on top here, you decide what shutter speed you want to use. So that's how this prism works. And to put back this original waist level viewfinder on, you just put it on straight on. Just like that. And so this is how you use this camera. And so this is how you use the Mamiya 645 film camera. I hope you liked this video. If you want to see more videos with this camera, taking photos with this camera, and much more related to this camera, please remember to subscribe, hit that like button, and click the bell button to get notified about any new video I post, so you never miss it. So thank you for watching, my friends. See you in the next video. Take care, my friends.